I don't know if I can use the reading glasses tonight. I tried the reading glasses a couple of minutes ago and they were steaming up. Gary Graves? Get out of here. Gary Graves is in it? Oh my gosh. Mumble, mumble, mumble. Yeah. Yeah, we're into that here. It's kind of our, the secret password. So if you hadn't gotten in before, you would have gotten in now. And not a moment too soon, because you know, it's Tuesday, Tuesday, Tuesday. The day that time forgot. And it's time once again for Poetry Break, Poetry Break, Poetry Break, Poetry Break. Wow, those kind of special effects. Got to pay top dollar for those. Top dollar. Oh, I hurt myself. Where in the heck did the other one go? Thing's going flying every which way. Oh, there it is. Way over there. Hi. How are you? It is June the 7th. June the 7th already. June the 7th. And we are here once again convening this elite group of intellectuals who I'd like to hang out and watch, see how far off the rails Billy goes tonight. Well, people, let me tell you, this has been a challenging day for both myself and the hand. Yes, we've had some challenges today of one kind or another. Hello, Theo. Welcome, sir. Rick Lewis. Hello, Rick Lewis. Cup of the week. Pauline Jones, Aaron Ochoa. Oh, no. No sluggos. Okay. All right. Anyway. Yeah, I had some kind of invasive testing done today. They were sticking needles in my back and in my leg. It weren't too pleasant, and it left me with some sore muscles back there back there. So I've used every potion and lotion and motion and ocean that I can find to give me some relief. But really, you know, it's the Laurie Trout commemorative shot that's really gonna do it, right, Laurie? Well, Holly Tuttle's in the house, one of the main wranglers of the Lame Cat Ranch out there on Vashon Island. Laurie, I salute you as always. Pauline Jones, groovy. Well, I like your cup too, by the way, Pauline. Now, because of circumstances, I'm going to pour myself a second shot, just in case it's needed, because, as I've heard from several other people, the best analgesic we've found for those of us with the chronic pain issues is a managed, slow drip of of grain alcohol. In this case, the Glenlivet Founders Reserve single malt scotch that my darling Diane was generous and just generous enough to provide for our uses this week. So everybody's belly up to the bar, and I'll be passing out shots here momentarily. All right then. Whiskey. Mark, I see you there, Mark. Monica Holferstadt, Mary Pekka in the house. Oh my goodness, Alice Davie is in the house. Alice Davie. Oh my goodness. All right. See, here's the thing you need to know about tonight. I am flying completely by the seat of my pants because of the way today has gone, and because I just couldn't quite get it together. But I've got plenty of stuff. Don't worry about me. Once again, Diane was generous enough to throw some stuff at me here at the last minute when I said, I'm not sure I have enough poetry. She said, you want some poetry? I got some poetry for you. But I'm going to start with this one because Alice is here. I'm going to start with For Alice on her birthday. Now, this was written for Alice's 19th birthday, which was a couple of years ago. This is from the Pandemic Suite. Anybody that doesn't have this and wants it, just email me or message me your mailing address and I'll throw one in the mail for you. For Alice on her birthday. After a weekend of memorial services, you are 19. Today I want nothing more than to drive away from death, anyone's really, my own especially, This part of the Cascade skyline is still new. Mount Baker, a crowning glory, but all the lower snowcaps too in stark relief against gray. Though I am not your first choice of companion, please show me that youth is not all steady feet and certain mind. I like to remember confusion because it's pliable and full of tomorrows. Art is a world with many seasons but no edges. You stand on the promontory in 20 years and capture a different sky, revise the snow line, and bring new animals out of the trees. Sunrise can signal the beginning of tedium, yet no two are alike. These are things I want you to remember because they'll save your life, keep a wash of new colors near your brush tip, and because I've forgotten them often enough to blush. A daughter's love is the only one a man can ever truly believe. Maybe it's biology or dreams, or because of how he loves his mother. Confusion and love often travel together across years. When years become decades, when children become adults, when paint dries and the view hardens, few things hold their color as well as love. You'll want to remember that too. As years harden the skin, they soften the heart. Be there to remind me. There you go. That's in celebration of the fact that my daughter Alice is in the house tonight. Yeah. All right. To the mailbag we go, folks. To the mailbag we go. Now, some of the stuff from the mailbag is stuff that I have purloined by one means or another. You'll understand more as we proceed here. This first one is a poem by James Cruz, which was posted on the Westminster Basement Study Group site by one Colette Marie, a fine poet in her own right, who I hope to have as a guest here on the Poetry Break at some point, along with Bridget Lacey, Bill Woolham, and others who I will mention. This is called Belonging by James Cruz, courtesy of Colette Marie. Instead of giving yourself away in order to belong or feel less lonely, become your own longing. Let the light of your wide-eyed search for something larger than the self, beyond the known, shine through as though you were conceived and placed on the earth only to fulfill your soul's deepest secret need. The part of you that will never disappear was mined from veins in stone like gold, then rendered into dust to fill and mend the cracks in the fragile vessel of this body, which is itself a walking, talking form of longing for the moment when that dust in us is taken up, shimmering, and carried back to the source. Belonging by James Cruz. Thank you, Colette Marie. I don't know if Colette's here tonight. Love you too, Bunky. So now we move to Mr. Mark Kenney, Mr. Reliable, we've come to call him, as we move through our experience here in the Poetry Break. I wanted to read a couple of these that Mark sent in. He sent me what he called a poetry burst, or what did he call it? Now I've forgotten. I had it in my head. Poetry something. Oh, darn it. Oh, man. And I put the things out of order in the thing. Where is it? I loved what he said. Poetry dump. Poetry dump. Okay. So I picked out a couple of these. He sent me like 5 or 6 poems. And I appreciate it, but I can't read all 5 or 6 on any one show. And I feel like I lose track of them as they move back in the file as new things get added. My filing system is not great, but I wanted to read a couple of these because I just love them. First one is called Senses, that I wanted to read from Mr. Mark Kenney, one of our regulars. He's in the house tonight. He's drinking lime spritzed Perrier. If anybody wants to be like Mark, get yourself some lime spritzed Perrier. It's a good start. And no sluggos. That's another thing to remember. Senses, this is called. The eyes don't lie, do they? The ears won't hear what isn't there, will they? The nose can't smell what it hasn't learned, can it? The tongue only knows what it has already tasted, doesn't it? The fingers only remember what they've felt before, don't they? Our senses, precious gifts though they are, need awakening, need renewal, need to be taught like babies breathing inward that first puff of creation, of imagination. We are always less than we expect, but so much more than we can comprehend. There are more senses than 5, so very many more. What about what the heart feels? What about what time reveals? What about what your mind knows without sight, without sound, without taste, touch, or smell? Such beggars we are, always wanting, always seeking, never resting, never satisfied, when deep inside we all must know instinctively we are not just this or that, this one thing or that other thing. We are all of this and all of that. If only we could accept what our senses truly reveal, that everything is nothing and nothing is everything. We are unto ourselves entire universes densely packed with life and the living, drilled through with loss and death and longing, each and every minute filled to the brim with ever-expanding dust from all the land and sea or sky that ever countenanced the presence of the living, of all who have come before us and all who are yet to come into being. We are not alone. We have simply forgotten who we are. Let's make up a new story, shall we? One filled with magic and grace, humor and horror, honor and heresy, believers and unbelievers, angels and devils, saints and sinners. Ah, you see? You've caught me out. We've been here before. We know this game. We've played before so very many times. Mark Kenney. Senses, that's called. Ooh, messages coming in. Now one more from Mark. This one's called August Meadow. The August Meadow. This August meadow holds a stream, a brook where darkness casts no shadow, over ever-present laughter and never-ending joy. I'd been here once, a little waif in the wide, wide world ever so long ago, and now the years they have come and gone, I'm back to find my shadow. Thankfully, I left no footprints there to show long life, hard love, unrelenting loss and pain. Ah, sweet meadow, I would go back there again. The changing currents have quickly passed, revealing often calmer waters than before. Time and tide have eddied ever onward, since once ere long ago, when eyes were sharp and ears were keen, I was lost among the water fairies, yet found my nature's grace. Clouds will always form and rains will ever fall, enveloping that sun-swept meadow and its evanescent greenery, filling stream and brook with hearty song and bubbling mirth for all to find who wander hence, young and old, amidst such timeless bliss. My life's run by in the time I've tarried, my memories amiss. Mark Kenney. The August Meadow, that's called. Yeah. Okay. Now, Mr. Theo from the Couth Buzzard, another one of our regulars. He's made it part of his week to send stuff in. I think that's a glorious thing. It's a wonderful thing. More messages coming in. Messages from the front. Shot number 2. You have to understand, my back is a bit, shall we say, tweaked. But it's not structural. It's muscular, because they were sticking the needles into muscles to kind of test the electrical responsiveness. It's called EMG. I had not had this procedure before, so I was a little scared going in, because, you go to a hospital. I had a COVID scare this week. Someone I know tested positive. I'd been hanging out with them, and so it's been one of those kind of weeks where I just kind of went, so if I seem a little less than perfectly focused tonight. Theo said this: there's a simple, lovely movie, Paterson. Adam Driver plays a bus driver, whose name is Paterson, drives the same route in Paterson, New Jersey. Paterson, as we know, is also the title of the famous poem of that name by William Carlos Williams. Paterson writes poetry that captures the beauty in the mundane. Theo does this too. The poems were written for the movie by Ron Padgett, someone we've heard about here back in the Treehouse days, and we'll hear from again. One of my favorites, Theo saying that. One of my favorites too, Theo. So here are a few of the poems from the movie. The first one, Waterfalls, was written from the point of view of a 10-year-old girl who asks Paterson if she can read him a poem that she wrote. The others were composed by Paterson. I thought of this because of all the rain Seattle has experienced lately. I'm a pluviophile, so I love all the following water, while Diane and I are pluviophiles too, Theo. In case I didn't mention that earlier, which I did. Okay? All right. So I'm going to read these poems that Theo sent. And Theo, I rewatched the movie Paterson last night in preparation for tonight because I love that movie too. Okay, Waterfalls. This is the one that the 10-year-old girl wrote. Water falls from the bright air. It falls like hair falling across a young girl's shoulders. Water falls, making pools in the asphalt, dirty mirrors with clouds and buildings inside. It falls on the roof of my house. It falls on my mother and on my hair. Most people call it rain. Yay. Now here's a few of the other poems from the movie, Paterson. And once again, these are written by Ron Padgett. I love this one. Love poem, it's called. We have plenty of matches in our house. We keep them on hand always. Currently, our favorite brand is Ohio Blue Tip, though we used to prefer Diamond brand. That was before we discovered Ohio Blue Tip matches. They are excellently packaged, sturdy little boxes with dark and light blue and white labels with words lettered in the shape of a megaphone, as if to say even louder to the world, here is the most beautiful match in the world. Its 1.5-inch soft pine stem, capped by a grainy dark purple head, so sober and furious and stubbornly ready to burst into flame, lighting perhaps the cigarette of the woman you love for the first time, and it was never really the same after that. All this we will give you. That is what you gave me. I become the cigarette and you the match, or I the match and you the cigarette, blazing with kisses that smolder toward heaven. Yeah, I like. Kind of sounds like somebody else is flapping water and paper around. Like, what? Oh, I see. I'm supposed to draw a card. The hand is asking. Did you notice it's the hand? The hand! Owl. I have drawn an owl. Wait, don't run off. No. I just want the hand. I've got my card. I want. There you go. I needed to take a whiff of the hand before we move anywhere, before we do anything. Okay, owl. Yeah, you take those. Owl. Now this is a set of cards that Mark Kenney sent. Mark Kenney, whose poems we were reading just moments ago. So, owl means awareness, perception, wisdom, supernatural, nocturnal, solitude, be the warmth in the dark unknown. Yeah. Have I got this? Yeah, that's right side up. I don't know why they have the owl upside down. There's the owl. I guess the owl is flying down from the tree branch. Mark Kenney sent Diane and I a wonderful set of cards, those divination cards, and also a collection of cards that were like original artwork by Nikki Frumkin. Oh goodness, I'm not going to be able to unwrap that. I'm sorry, my hands don't work that good. Anyway, who we got here? Gary Graves, as we mentioned, is in the house. Pauline Jones and Aaron Ochoa. Hayden Reese. Hayden, I didn't see you there. Sorry, man. Bill Woolham has made it. Val Sanford is here. I see. Great. Rochelle, Rick Lewis, Monica Hoverstadt, Mark Kenney, Linda Rosales, Mary Pekka, Alice, Davie, oh my goodness, Bill Woolham, Val Sanford, Cindy Snyder, Holly Tuttle and Kim Nelson, or one or the other. Theo from the Couth Buzzard, and Gary Graves. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you and welcome one and all. And to anyone I didn't mention, it's because you haven't spoken up. The only way I can see the people who are here is if you write a comment. And then I can only see your name. I can't really... Okay. All right. A couple more from the movie Paterson, written by Ron Padgett, who we've had here before. He wrote a book called How to Be Perfect. He's kind of a late addition to the New York School of Poets. This is called Another One. When you're a child, you learn there are 3 dimensions: height, width, and depth, like a shoebox. Then later, you hear there's a 4th dimension: time. Then some say there can be 5, 6, 7. I knock off work, have a beer at the bar. I look down at the glass and feel glad. There's nothing else to know about that poem. More messages coming in from the front. And finally one called Poem. I'm in the house. It's nice out. Warm. Sun on cold snow. First day of spring or last day of winter. My legs run up the stairs and out the door. My top half here writing. I like that. I like that kind of, split. I feel that way sometimes too. My mind, your mind goes racing out into the world, and your upper body stays behind to write it down. You got to write it down, right? Exactly. Right? Right. Now, you may have heard me mention Nils Peterson before. If you haven't subscribed to Nils or friended Nils Peterson on Facebook, you ought to, because he posts probably 2 or 3 things a week, all of which are worth reading. Sometimes it's little essay, little quips, but a lot of times it's poetry. And I saw one on Nils's page this last week that I thought was great, so I wanted to share it with you. What Nils said about it was, thinking about my face again. Now, Nils, I believe, is in his 80s. And this is called On a Photograph of Leonard and Virginia Woolf. Such noses. What negotiations a kiss must have taken, like the crossing of swords before a duel. At 12, I wanted such a nose and would pinch my nasal cartilages for hours. When I saw the great nose of Stuart Granger tack across the silver screen, I realized such majesty was beyond me. I have quite a decent nose, a good nose, maybe. When I was younger and in a flattering light, a good-looking one, but it's not a nose for empire. One could kiss the lips beneath without worry about being wounded. One could kiss the lips beneath without worrying about being wounded, at least by the nose. I'm going to read that again, I'm sorry. On a photograph of Leonard and Virginia Woolf, Nils Peterson. Such noses. What negotiations a kiss must have taken, like the crossing of swords before a duel. At 12, I wanted such a nose and would pinch my nasal cartilages for hours. When I saw the great nose of Stuart Granger tack across the silver screen, I realized such majesty was beyond me. I have quite a decent nose, a good nose, maybe when I was younger and in a flattering light, a good-looking one, but it's not a nose of empire. One could kiss the lips beneath without worrying about being wounded, at least by the nose. Nils Peterson. I really appreciate that guy. I do. I love that. He's partly what inspired me to post a poem on my page this week. Also, I just happened to really like the poem I posted, so there was that. Okay, I wanted to read these two that the hands sent in last minute, kind of when I was complaining about having enough poems. You've noticed I don't have nearly enough poems for tonight here at 7:26 p.m. We've got quite a ways to go, so hey Aaron, how you doing? Good to see you, sir. Okay, Naomi Shihab Nye is the poet. Different Ways to Pray is the poem. There was the method of kneeling, a fine method if you lived in a country where stones were smooth. The women dreamed wistfully of bleached courtyards, hidden corners where knees fit rock. Their prayers were weathered rib bones, small calcium words uttered in sequence, as if this shedding of syllables could somehow fuse them to the sky. There were the men who had been shepherds so long they walked like sheep. Under the olive trees, they raised their arms. Hear us! We have pain on earth. We have so much pain there is no place to store it. But the olives bobbed peacefully in fragrant buckets of vinegar and thyme. At night, the men ate heartily, flat bread and white cheese, and were happy in spite of the pain, because there was also happiness. Some prized the pilgrimage, wrapping themselves in new white linen to ride buses across the miles of vacant sand. When they arrived at Mecca, they would circle the holy places on foot many times. They would bend to kiss the earth and return, their lean faces housing mystery, while for certain cousins and grandmothers the pilgrimage occurred daily, lugging water from the spring or balancing the baskets of grapes. These were the ones present at births, humming quietly to perspiring mothers, the ones stitching intricate needlework into children's dresses, forgetting how easily children soil clothes. There were those who didn't care about praying, the young ones, the ones who had been to America. They told the old ones, "You are wasting your time." Time? The old ones prayed for the young ones. They prayed for Allah to mend their brains, for the twig, the round moon, to speak suddenly in a commanding tone. And occasionally there would be one who did none of this. The old man Fauzi, for example, Fauzi the fool, who beat everyone at dominoes, insisted he spoke with God as he spoke with goats, and was famous for his laugh. Yeah. Naomi Shihab Nye, Different Ways to Pray. One more from Naomi, written during the pandemic. It's called Every Day is a Wide Field, Every Page. It's in two parts. Every day as a wide field, every page. 1. Standing outside, staring at a tree, gentles your eyes. We cheer to see fireflies winking again. Where have our friends been all the long hours? Minds stretching beyond the field become their own skies. Windows, doors, grow more important. Look through a word, swing that sentence wide open, kneeling outside to find sturdy green, glistening blossoms under the breeze that carries us silently. And there were so many more poems to read, countless friends to listen to. We didn't have to be in the same room. The great modern magic. Everywhere together now. Even scared. Together now from all points of the globe, which lessened it somehow. Hopeful together too, exchanging winks in the dark, the little lights blinking. When your hope shrinks, you might feel the hope of someone far away lifting you up. Hope is the thing. Hope was always the thing. What else did we give each other from such distances? Breath of syllables, sing to me from your balcony, please. Befriend me in the deep space. When you paused for a poem, it could reshape the day you had just been living. Naomi Shihab Nye. All that from the poetry, from the mailbag this week. Goodness gracious. All right. About a little old manhood. Old manhood has been kind of sparse this week, I must say. Only 3 to offer tonight, although I should read the poem that I posted on my Facebook page this week. I don't post that many poems on Facebook because there aren't that many poems that I write that I like right away. Most of them have to age a while, and then I think, well, that's kind of pretentious to post it up there like I know something. This one I was pretty sure about from pretty straight on. I wrote this just a couple of days ago, and it was one of those ones that just kind of came to me almost fully formed. I did some tweaking and some rearranging and playing with the line breaks a little bit. But again, from the walks that I've been taking, which is kind of what old manhood has become about, it's called Leaves Being Rained On, in case you hadn't seen it. Something tropical is happening with all this rain and humidity. The plant life is bursting with color and swollen with usable water. Flowers are extra bright, especially the rhododendrons. Dogwoods are flashing their white or yellow blossoms like galaxies against a green sky. Walking, you can smell the vitality and in sunlight almost taste the wet happiness of it all. Lovely spring for a water sign, if you're lucky enough to be one. Those of us who are would love to tell you about it. But just until your face turns the color of leaves being rained on. That's a new poem from this week. Not to be confused with Old Manhood, which is, I'm not sure what. I call it a poet's notebook or a poet's journal. Here in Old Manhood, he was exposed to the plague. Thought he was safe. More than 2 years in isolation, 2 years without a head cold, a chest cold, the flu, bulletproof. Then the news. Caught out under the wingless clouds, over the gray sky's wake, a note of concern for the already sick old man behind the desk, reading poetry and minding his own business, which is spreading the words. And he feels fine. Feels a little weightless, like a cottonwood seed in springtime, carried out across the marsh grass toward the old hay barn by the creek. He walked there summers when he was a kid, but now the warm air entraps him in corridors of contagion, which could knock him down hard if he's one of the unlucky few. He was born in late February, so he's an alarmist, but a few days from now, he won't even remember this. That's how the Pisceans roll. Kind of luxurious if you don't think about it too long. Things have gotten pretty loose here in Old Manhood. What do you consider a work day? Here in Old Manhood, it's 2 pages of this sort of thing. Not what any of us used to think of as a work day. Now all that's changed to this. Now we are licensed. The cornucopia of goodness carried forward by our ancestors after they faded into the background. is now our inheritance. Live it the hell up. We are on the last stretch of road. Not that many people want to hear from us. Our bodies are turning back into soil. Let's stake a new claim. Let's aim for the stars. The only thing we've got to lose is the thing we'll lose anyway. So climb that radio, type that television, be an influencer for the senior set. No one else is doing it. It's the wild west of weirdness. We're growing some of the best there is, so why not sprinkle a little on the neighbor's cornflakes? Live it the hell up. Here you go. One more here. Go back to early April, you days of starch and warmth. Take away the young muggers on the public trail, cool days under the spring sun, the two of us ready for anything except violence in our barefoot shoes, cool waves of retirement rolling over us, the wary savages miles off, offending their own kind, the young and the reckless. We know that an end is near. Nature has her signals all worked out. We read them early and often, and then choose to believe that our openness gives us more. The vulnerable shall inherit. The meek earn an extension. Our slow fade full of whiskey and smiles, good jokes that offend no one. Miles of steady earth, a melody that comes from the reed and string sections. All the air we want. Here's our offerings from Oldmanhood for the week. Golly, remember how I said I was worried that I wouldn't have enough? Here we are at 7:37. 7:37 coming out of the sky. Won't you take me down to Memphis on a midnight ride? I want to move. Playing in a traveling band. Yeah. I've been flying across the land, trying to get a hand, playing in a traveling band. Oh, wow! Sorry. Maybe it's the scotch. I don't know. I want to read. There's a poet that I've known for 40 years. I met Laurie Lamon in the Literature of the Northwest class that I've mentioned here before, which was January of 1978, I believe, at Whitworth College in Spokane, Washington. And then that spring, the spring of 1978, was the first ever poetry writing workshop at Whitworth, led by Dr. Philip Eaton, who went on to be the president of Seattle Pacific University for some years. Laurie was the person in the class. I guess there were a couple of people. Deb Akers was another. You knew they were poets on the first day. Like they were advanced. They were out in front of the rest of us. The rest of us aspired to be like them. We wanted to be like them. This is Laurie's first book, called The Fork Without Hunger, and it's published by Cabin Carey Press, and I wanted to read a couple of the pain poems. The pain poems. Laurie has had chronic back trouble since our collegiate years, and has continued with that, and she has turned it into art. She has written a sequence of pain poems. Now I guess she has a full manuscript of the collected pain poems. Yeah. You're done writing them already? Anyway, I wanted to read a couple of these, and I want to read one that she sent me just recently. I just recently got back in contact with Laurie. I had sent her a copy of The Pandemic Suite, and it had gotten kind of piled in with a bunch of mail at her office at the college. Now, she's been teaching from home, as most people had, for the last couple of years. And finally, this is the year that Laurie retired from Whitworth College after teaching there for 30-some years. And finally, a fellow retiree, or soon-to-be retiree, Leonard Oakland, brought Laurie's stack of mail from the office at the Westminster Hall on the Whitworth campus to Laurie, where Laurie lives up on the South Hill. And there she found my book. So, yeah. Anyway, this is from her book, The Fork Without Hunger. This is called Pain Tries to Think of Something. ties a string around one finger, places a stone in each shoe, stuffs its clothes with paper, watches sleeves catch and smoke, rubs its knees together, feeling nerves flare, tries to think of literature, physics, shopping malls, lighted all-night cups of milk it exhorts its children to drink every morning, combing their hair and attaching each neckline's bitten eye and hook. The children finish their juice and cereal and try to guess what animal, what shape, what color is next, while pain weeps, imagining an elephant hiding its bird-like face in the trees. At night, when the children sleep, pain thinks of the last thing, watching the moon monument rise, then thinks of something else, the body's mud and straw crouched beneath the stars. I don't explain them. I just read them. And I just love these. When I first read this book, and I'll tell you, it was, I don't know, this book came out when? She's been doing this for a while. This came out in 2005, and I read it, and I was like... But I read it again probably about a month ago, and was like, oh, yeah, the pain poems, which was kind of my entrance into the rest of her poetry. I'll read something that isn't a pain poem here in a moment. But this is called Pain Thinks of History. Pulling its arms to its rib cage, pain thinks of a seahorse small as a fern, thinks of ladders and tombs, thinks of ruins architecture, the vertebra's neural arch, the torn net, the artifact. Pain thinks of history without landscape, without bone or infinitive. Pain thinks of the condoned papyrus, the first and last page. Pain thinks of the cell's enormity, sliding open and shut. Pain thinks of history without darkness and digs without darkness, without garbage or marrow. Pain digs without thinking of digging, and the hand and the wrist without history, and the bracelet child size. Pain slides up its arm. You really got to get this book, The Fork Without Hunger. She's got a second book called Without Wings. And I was talking to her a week or so ago. She's got like 4 other complete manuscripts waiting to be sent out and brought to all of us. Laurie Lamon, watch for that name because, ooh, baby, she's been the real thing for as long as I've known her, and that's been about 40 years, so... There you go. I wanted to read one more of hers. It's called Watering the Maple. My mother watered in the dark, in porch light, reading hour, tucking in hour. She hauled wheelbarrows of trees wrapped in burlap. Once I faked a bath, wet my wrists, my knees, rinsed my face, washed my glasses with ivory soap. In the living room I lied. Tonight, in the window, I see myself drag the hose to the Japanese maple, 3 years old. I work down as though I'm bathing a daughter, and her hair is tossed forward into my hands. Then the belly and back I rinse for dust. The arms I lift and wash and dry, holding her between my hands. My mother showed me how to spray the leaves so they can breathe, then lay water against the earth and let all of darkness drink. I want to read that one again. Watering the Maple. My mother watered in the dark in porch light, reading hour, tucking in hour. She hauled wheelbarrows of trees wrapped in burlap. Once I faked a bath, wet my wrists, my knees, rinsed my face, washed my glasses with ivory soap. In the living room I lied. Tonight, in the window, I see myself drag the hose to the Japanese maple, 3 years old. I work down as though I am bathing a daughter, and her hair is tossed forward into my hands. Then the belly and back I rinse for dust. The arms I lift and wash and dry, holding her between my hands. My mother showed me how to spray the leaves so they can breathe, then lay water against the earth and let all of darkness drink. Laurie Lamon. She's one of the people I hope to have as a guest here in the Poetry Break at some point. And here's someone else. We'll close tonight with Abbie Miller. Abbie Miller is somebody that I met up in the Meadow Valley when I was living up there. Her sister, Jo Miller, you may know from a local band that gained some notoriety called Ranch Romance some years ago. Jo Miller was the primary songwriter of Ranch Romance, but Abbie Miller, Joe's older sister, is a poet and was a poet in the Meadow. I'm not sure where Abbie's living now, but wherever she is, I know she's still writing poetry, and I hope that she will reach out to me at some point. In 2007, Abbie and I did a reading together at the Merck Playhouse in Twisp, and it was an event that I will not ever forget because, well, I don't know. I felt honored to be in a reading with Abbie because she was kind of like the unofficial poet laureate of the Meadow Valley at that point, and probably at every point. She'd been reading her poems at local events and had them published in the Meadow Valley News for years before I even lived in the valley. It just so happened that I was the one who organized the reading, so she agreed to read with me. Born and Raised to Be is the book that Abbie put out in 2007. And I'll start with If the Land Were a Woman Lying Down. If the land were a woman lying down, my home rests in the opening next to the stream that flows from my mother's nature, through hills that rise like thighs on both sides. Texas Creek bends and curves, folds into herself to create this place I come from. Bird songs off branches thick and tall call me to soar. Secure a bed of hollyhocks will catch me if I fall like a sound. Hold me, even in the dark when I can't see the babbling stream, reminds me how to be made new. Passing through sage, that brush the silly notion of sorrow away, along with the worry that lurks as hemlock in the stream waits for permission from bird or bee to be received, then answers with the same intention as any crop sown or child now grown and gone to seed herself. Like the cottonwood standing wait at the door, redeemed and adorned by grace, me and mine are too planted on the threshold of beginning, determined to grow on little more than air, water, and the beauty of this place from where I came. I have come back to be, and as if the land were a woman lying down, I have been reborn. She cradles me in the contours of her warm, sagey places, and lifts me with hilltops so I can see who I was born and raised to be. One more from Abbie. My Heart Beats a Path, it's called. I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to get to know Abbie, even just a little bit, during the time that I lived up in the Meadow. Because she was of the place. She was a native plant, almost, you know. She seemed like completely of that place. And I haven't known that many people who are completely of a place. I have tried to be of the place with my Fox Island poems, you know, Puget Sound poems. But I don't know. Maybe Abbie didn't either, whether or not we achieved anything like the place. My Heart Beats a Path, this is called. My heart beats a path, and my life's blood takes me there, up the river my grandma grew on, to the rendezvous, to look at the sky from the same spot My great-grandma stood and looked, praying for rain and salvation on a dry land ranch, 6 kids, no husband, and not a cloud in sight. They ate rock salt and sourdock, morning, noon, and night for days. Cows gone dry, no cream to sell or garden to harvest, but survive they must, and did, on weed in a season for curing. It warms my soul and chills bones, haunted by those who have known of this place, that place, who married, who women's club meetings to wallpaper, paint, and upholster, the year of the flood, the year of the fire. What a pity she had gone next door for sugar while her baby slept to death. Lilac bushes and a pond-gone marsh, and some of what remains on homesteads, long abandoned. Silence whispers, the breeze tells of female rags drying in the moonlight. Winters spent 6 people in one bed, day and night, until the cold broke. With luck, before the bed broke. Excuse me. Or the 4 kids with 2 young mothers, Rosebell and Katie Dell, sister fiddle players whose husbands were gone to the mines. At every dance they stood till dawn, arms up, playin' and playin', until there was no dancin' left in the people, and they could see to go home. Always the mourning dove sings. Or is that my grandma's whistle? Does she want me? The winged one sings for no reason at all, like Grandma, who always has, with her straight back and long elegant neck, holding dark hair high in a bun. Face turned to the soil in hand, such beauty she grew. Dear Grandma Ann, I will always remember the shape of the hands that made so much of the life that had been given them, themselves given, to men of little refinement and certain insanity, based on a dream of greatness in a land that allowed for such beliefs, a surrounding that, by example, made men and took them back, buried, broke as the day they were born, with tales of hundreds of thousands sealed by hands, dealing cattle, gold, logs, land, feed for stock, feed for man. No matter who else, he was a farmer, she a farmer's wife. My mother, her mother, and the mothers before that, lived in a swelter of beauty so demanding it could turn the spirit into flesh and back again. Like seasons, newborns come and grow every year, and never quite the same. Records break, higher and higher on the thermometer, the mercury goes, or so low you'd near to die. Then take heart in the views they've filled eyes of all the pregnant women I am born of. The air has nourished the souls of ancestors, passing from one to another like stories told by Grandma Effie. A breeze inspired to cleanse the spirit and move you on. One gust rustles leaves and sweeps away worry in a moment of breathless wonder at the power of all things. Like storms that stop you, with rain and snow all year long on trails made by animal or man, until an act of nature makes the course new. Then born into the soil, this way too becomes worn and familiar, like the sound of a slide, the track of a bear, or which way to veins of precious metal, where my Grandma Mary cooked in cast iron all the meals for the men that mined, plus the ones who packed them in, with tools and supplies, up hills as steep as a horse's face, until the claim was no longer true. Dreams of riches gone to prayer about the weather. That last place on Boulder Creek was rocky as hell. Biding and surviving one effort, hands went deftly from the plow to the brow of a child and brought forth abundance on tables. Even when there isn't any on the books, there is value on the land. For this I have respect. For this I have learned to let go and have faith, as long as there is soil underfoot breathe in, as the rock, how to live, the wind to be touched, of the sky to ever change, deeply rooted like a tree, stand firm and bend easily. My life's blood takes me there, then takes mine, back to the rock, the tree, my grandmother's knee, or her place on this hill where I stand and see my child, as tall as any other man who has stood on that threshold, watching the land make a nest for the woods, the village, the safe and sound. Up on this hill we hear every direction speak. How far that distant peak? How long until the sun goes down and the cold sets in on this place I have always known? Abbie Miller, from the book Born and Raised to Be. There you go. And I was worried there wouldn't be enough poetry. Come on. But do remember, ladies and gentlemen, our little poetry address here, poetrybreak22@gmail.com. I'm interested in the poems that were read to you when you were a child, the poems you remember from your youth or from your schooling years, poems that you've just discovered, poems that you have written yourself, poems that maybe you're unsure of, as I'm unsure of the whole Oldmanhood project, which continues. It continues. It's kind of slow this week, but you gotta expect the ebbs, the flows. It's Ebbie and Flowy. It's Bobby and Weavy. It's Ducky and Covery. You know, like so many other things these days. Yeah. Anyway, there was a little left. Thank you for bearing with me once again on this week when I was feeling not quite all there. Thank you to the Hand for her contributions. Thank you to Colette Marie, to Mark Kenney, to Theo, and to the Hand again for their contributions to tonight's mailbag, and to Laurie Lamon, who I've known for 40 plus years and who I respect entirely as a poet who I still aspire to be like. I do. Anyway, we'll do this again next week as best we can. Have a poetic week, everybody. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, he said. Bye-bye.